Yes, everyone, hello. Welcome back to another episode here on Cluiche with me, Séamus Brady, your host. I'm joined once again by Matthew Hurley, and we have Eamon Donoghue also with us as well. We are going to run through the two All-Ireland Club finals, which took place over the weekend. Of course, we had the All-Ireland Club football final, which Glen came out on top in, and we had the All-Ireland Club hurling final, which took place before that. St. Thomas's came out on top in that one by 1 point, beating O'Loughlin Gaels. Now, we are going to start football, and then we're going to move into the hurling later. Myself and Eamon were in Croke Park at the games. Matthew was trapped behind the storm in Cork. Matthew, what's it like down there?
Pretty windy, I can't lie, and thanks for having me on again, Séamus. Yeah, it's not as windy as Galway, Mayo, Donegal at the moment, but pretty windy down here. You even fear that the power might cut in the next hour, so hopefully it doesn't in this podcast now. But we'll see now. But yeah, it was an interesting game. Watch it on the TV. I'm sure you lads probably had the best seats of the house viewing it. But yeah, it was brilliant viewing it on the TV. I thought Brigid were going to win it for a while, up until that Conor Glass goal, which was just a moment of brilliance. But yeah, looking forward to discussing the game with you today.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, the atmosphere was great in the stadium. Eamon, what did you make of it as well in the stadium, primarily for the football one? What did you make?
Yeah. No, it was good. Like coming down to the stadium beforehand, like the only people who were out on the streets, people going to the games, like everyone else was staying inside. Like so everyone who made it obviously were the hardcores, because it was obviously windy and wet, and the weather warnings were telling everyone to stay inside. Like, but yeah, I thought it was like, I suppose like Roscommon and myself, kind of, you'd like to see Roscommon team win, but at the same time you'd never be too, like, you wouldn't be as like Brigid to be a rival of my own club. So but I was very invested, I suppose, in them winning, just because of the style of play that they brought to the game, and that they bring themselves, like always, Brigid's style of play, which is, nothing mad, but like, just, I suppose, very different from what we see from nearly every other club team, which is kick passing the ball, small little kick pass into the pockets of space, support runners running off of it, like just not being completely risk averse. And to have seen that pay off would have been great, like, because we've obviously seen the Corofin teams, how they dominated club football playing that way, and it would have been great to see a team win a club championship playing that way again. And then you could have actually made an argument then, with all these club teams around the country playing a different way, that, this is actually the most successful side of football. But obviously, the counter argument to that is that Brigid and Corofin, these clubs, they've been playing that way since they were yay high, like they since they were kids, like. So it's hard to come into a senior club team and develop that. But like Brigid's, I thought it was a good game of football. At the same time, you wouldn't begrudge Glen because of obviously last year, and like, it's great scenes, I suppose, a lot of emotion with them, and like Derry football is flying at the moment, and you wouldn't begrudge them, and they obviously stayed in the game really well, and they showed like really good maturity and all of those things, which Brigid kind of lacked because they're a very young team, like. So but all in all, like, really, really good game, really good advertisement in the conditions, especially, like.
Yeah, no, big time. And I mean, like, you're right, Derry football is absolutely on the rise. Like, I mean, well, not on the rise, they have risen, but in terms, like, it's in such a great place when you consider the McKenna Cup victory, obviously beating Jim McGuinness Donegal there, and then on top of that, Glen winning the All-Ireland Club Championship, their first one. And look, it was slipping away from them, and they needed to show that leadership. And obviously, we're going to get into Conor Glass. Matthew, I'm going to, throw that one over to you. But let's start with that one. I couldn't get my words out there for a second. I've taken the flip-flop out of my mouth, and now we're going to talk about this game, which was an incredible All-Ireland Club football final. Like, there's no doubt about it. It was dramatic, it was gripping, and it finished Glen 2-10, Brigid's 1 goal and 12 points. As we've said, Brigid's looked to be in the driving seat. They looked to be in pole position, especially coming into the home stretch. And then, Matthew, out of nowhere, that goal from Conor Glass. Michael Warnock had got an inspirational point just before it. Glass gets the goal. Glen tag on 2 more points, and they see it out from there.
Yeah, and up until that point, it looked like Glen were just out of it. Like, everything they hit wide. Like, I think it was a 40-odd% shot accuracy at times in the game. And then Brigid kept it above 80%. And you're thinking, every time Brigid go up the field, they're going to take a score. If Glen go down the other pitch, they're not taking it whatsoever. And it just needed 2 things in particular: a moment of brilliance and maybe a slip up from Brigid. And I think that was all in the one move with the Conor Glass goal. It was just brilliant from Conor Glass. In fairness, to hit it from there, to the accuracy to hit it from there was just superb. But the Brigid goalkeeper, you'd nearly feel sorry for him, just going out the goal at that particular moment in time, and it was just hit into the back of the net. It was a brilliant finish by Glass, and that leveled the game.
One thing with that match, could I just tag this in? Being in the stadium, I seen this. There was one thing that not a lot of people would see, but the Brigid's keeper came out to make himself available for a short pass from the free. For the Brigid's player who was taking the free, and Glass spotted the keeper as an easy option and ran over to cover him. So that made the Brigid's player go forward with the kick pass, which led to the turnover and also the keeper being out of his goal. And then, so he almost kind of set himself up for the opportunity for the goal as well by covering that pass.
Yeah, and you could see that when Glass.
And when you think,
when Glass got, no, I was just saying when Glass got the ball in his hands, because obviously then the keeper was in two minds whether to come out to the long ball, kind of dropping. Yeah. When Glass, that would explain why Glass was so aware of exactly where the keeper was, because when he took his shot, because like you were thinking, like when you were watching, you were thinking, oh Jesus, the keeper back in time. But normally for the player who had the ball in his hand to be that aware of it, like it was that, and that would explain why, because he obviously had his eye on the keeper from early in the move, like. Mm-hmm. You were the Hawkeye up there spotting that, like, yeah, that was, as you said with that, Matthew, like it was both those two things in one. Like it was a slip up and it was a moment of brilliance, like which arrived both in the one moment. Like, fairness to Brigid's goalie, like a traditional outfield player, kind of converted into a goalie. He's an older player, and I thought he did well. Like, you know, a few kickouts could have kind of been kept away from Conor Glass, I suppose, but I think Brigid were trying to split the two Glen midfielders very much like solidly take a side each, and like they don't budge from that, and Brigid were trying to go 2v1 on with midfielders on the kickouts, and it worked for one of them with Canan caught in the first half, but by and large they got swamped with their kickout, and they really couldn't win their own kickout all day. And the only bit of joy that Glen had in the whole game was when they could kind of force consecutive long kickouts and they could just keep coming back with them. But like I thought that a lot of people say that like conditions can sometimes be a bit of a leveler, and in some ways they can, but I also think that the teams who do well in like tricky conditions, especially wet conditions, are the teams with the better skill set, because every little detail, every little finish like needs to be executed that bit better, because you know nothing is really simple. And when I seen the conditions as they were, and you know that Brigid's team, they're a small team, they're a young team, and they're all very good footballers. Like I was just very confident of them winning that game, because I just seen that condition, but at the same time, because of the size, strength, speed, and experience of Glen in comparison, you always felt that like Glen could get scores easier if they did kind of rip through and get a goal, and you know they could get another and another. And once Brigid kind of lost that 100% concentration on everything that they were doing, they were going to be in trouble, and that was it. Like kind of one slip, in the first half, the goal kind of could have been a bit more decisive in the way they dealt. But again, it kind of a long ball in, and there was kind of a bit more of a rub of the green where it kind of landed, like the breaks of that. But yeah, like it was as going back to that again, it was both those two things at once. A bit of luck, a bit of kind of the moment of brilliance, and also a lack of concentration on the Brigid side, kind of in the one moment, like so.
Yeah, and then Matthew, to throw that back to you as well, great point that Eamon made was the speed at which Glen were able to rack up 1-1, 1-2. It didn't just happen there. Like the Michael Warner point, the Glass goal, and the 2 points that tagged onto that happened really fast. But as well as that, in the first half, Brigid's were also in the driving seat. Jody McDermott gets the goal, and they get pretty much, I think it was Ethan Doherty who equalised pretty much immediately after. That was also another vital part of their victory.
I suppose the most impressive aspect for Glen was they didn't get the hit for them. They still stuck around to their principles, and I think that was key to their win in many ways. Like Brigid seemed to do everything right. They were hit their Glen on the counter attack as well. Like on the counter attack, Brigid were absolutely frightening in the first half. That incident where Ben O'Carroll and some other player was running beside him, and it should have been a goal. Ben O'Carroll should have stuck that in the back of the net, and if he stuck that would have been talked about in this game rather than Conor Glass's goal in many ways, because that was just an incredible break. But yeah, Glen, things didn't go right for them, but they got that goal at the right time through Jody McDermott. But Brigid still deserve massive credit as well. When we talk Glen, okay, they've got their leveler now. They've got to 1 fight to 8 points. You're thinking, okay, they're going to go up another few gears now. Brian Dermott gets that goal afterwards for Brigid when no one expected it. And that probably epitomised what Brigid were as well, a very, very good team. And usually with underdogs, they have to get their shot accuracy absolutely correct at times. Brigid's today was 81%. I know they still lost the game, but that's how they kept in the game. They did the simple things correctly. They shot... They were definitely working on a few things in the training ground, I'd imagine, as well, because like in the Castlehaven game in particular, in the second half, they were very, very poor in the third quarter. They didn't score anything in that third quarter. And I'd imagine Jerome Stack would have said to those players, that won't suffice against Watty Grahams Glen. If that happens against Watty Grahams Glen, we're going to lose. So I think they ironed out those misdeeds, really, in the third quarter. And they produced a very good game, in fairness. It was just that little bit at the end where Glen were just smart. Brigid probably showed a bit of an experience in Croke Park, and that was the difference between the two sides. But in fairness to Brigid, having performed poorly in that second half against Castlehaven, to then produce a very, very good second half performance in this game where they were up with Watty Grahams Glen to the very end of the game, I think that showed a lot of guts. And as well as that, with the wides as well, they only hit their first wide with the last kick of the game. That's Shane Canan free. That's incredible.
That's crazy.
But they incredible. Yeah. With Brigid's in that, like in terms of like no more than Cara Finn, who play a very similar style of football. Like the Croke Park really suits them. So like that extra space, the width, the pockets of space, it really suits them. So it creates more scoring chances. And like I suppose Ben O'Carroll kind of being left up there. Like you can see even in Croke Park, like they own a lot of the ball. They have really nice movements, but like they have to work very hard for every score. Like no score is like, except for, as you said, they're very clinical on the counter attack, so that they can cut through you on the counter. But like they owned most of the ball. They had more ball, way more ball, considering the fact as well that they couldn't win any long kick out or any contestable in anywhere on the field really. They had most of the ball. They set the tempo of the play, and it was just a case of like they had to work very hard for their scores. But like I don't think it was a case of like Brigid's got all their accuracy. Like that accuracy level is very good, but they were all like they weren't scoring points from everywhere. Like they were all in the scoring zone, and the shots that the Glen were missing it was good defending, but it also showed up like just kind of a lack of like, so the wind was pulling into that right corner in the second half. And the Glen had no left-footed forward, like so every time they were pulled out onto that right foot, they didn't want to have a shot on that right, and when the opportunities were presenting themselves on the left, they had no one out like, and you even seen that with Kieran McFall, who hit a brutal wide running through the middle right in front, and he went on his left because he was aware that like the left was pulling in nicely. And in the first half, Brigid's got some nice scores with that win because they've got a nice balance, and like that even goes into the point that like again that like Brigid set up with more of a football mentality. Like there's a reason why traditionally right half forward, right corner forward are left footers, because when the ball comes across there, you come on the loop and you come on the arc and you can get a left footed shot. And I just think that like the run of play, it just very much supported and showed how strong Brigid's are, how much better Brigid's were as a football team. But then inevitably, like as we know, the modern game is a lot more than that, and like the experience, speed, and power of the Glen kind of inevitably won out. But like I don't know, like that Brigid's team are so young, like, you know, like other than Brian Stack, Eddie Nolan, and Ronan Stack, like I don't think there's any outfield player even above like 24. You know, they're kids, like their whole bench are all kids. You know, like the likes of, there's lads there, like even the last county title they won before this were Niall McInerney, Peter Dominican's a little bit older now, but like they've really good players who you would expect to still be there on the team. Like it's remarkable what they've done as such a young team. And if they can keep that together, like they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I definitely don't think that's the last that we've heard of St. Brigid's in this like club championship, you know, over the next few years. I think they're going to be back. I think they'll probably win Roscommon next year. I'd be fairly confident in saying that. But But then the main thing as well, when we're talking about this game as well, Matthew, I said this to you off air. There was one thing that I really have like just a bone to pick with. I really hate it as something that's part of our game. And if you're watching this live, if you want to get involved in this discussion in the comments below at any time, throw them in. The live chat will also answer them all if you want to annoy Matthew more about any Super Value Park stuff. Like that was 10 comments in a minute on the last episode on Matthew's channel, Gaelic Statsman. Go check that out if you haven't. But my issue with this game is an issue that is a bit of a plague in the GA, is that I don't think that the black card is enough of a deterrent to completely take someone out in the last minute of a game. It's not enough of a deterrent. When Brigid were on that last attack to try and, get their equaliser, not a chance was that player going to step anywhere near Glen's D area. Not a chance. And if I'll admit this, I'll hold my hands up. If I was playing, not a chance would I let him get close either. I'd try to kick the legs out from under him to make sure he doesn't get there. The black card is not enough of a deterrent to stop players fouling in the last minute of the game. For me, simple as Kieran Whelan came up with a good solution. If it's inside the last 2 minutes and you do what is a black card worthy foul, it's also free from the 21-yard line. Because that pretty much is a guarantee of a point. In my opinion, that would cut it out. Matthew, do you agree?
It's an interesting point, yeah. And I think, again, that was very similar. And me and you reacted to this, Séamus, in the summer, the All-Ireland quarterfinal, Monaghan and Armagh. I remember distinctly a lot of Armagh players were putting down Monaghan players. I think they did it twice in the last minute. And I was absolutely frustrated with that. And I don't want to see that going into the last few minutes. But if I was in Conor McGuckin's shoes, I'd do the exact same thing.
Of course.
I'd pull him down.
He was like, I'll take it and I'll walk off. He's not going to score this. And then we win.
It's what he knows. He's entitled to do it. And he wasn't on a bookie anyway. So you could see that he was going to do it anyway. And there's loads of examples, loads of games where a side is a point down or 2 points down, or 2 points up, should I say, or a point up. And the managers scream in for the sideline, take him down. I've been involved in my own club team, and that's probably the attitude in my club. Never mind in inter-county. That's junior level now. So I think that's just the attitude throughout the country. And I think Kieran Whelan makes a very good point with that rule. And make no mistake about it, if that rule was implemented today, we would be in extra time. Because
if that rule was implemented, Glen would not have fouled Brigid there. They would have been terrified to foul him.
Yeah, but they did.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. Like at the end, you kind of felt like any Brigid player who was kind of half getting by, it was like it was doing their absolute best to try and get that hand pass away before they were dragged down. Like it was very much like rugby territory. But obviously that's more of an issue at the end of the game, as you were saying. But like even for the goal chance in the first half, like Rory Fallon, who was absolutely superb, like he cut through, intercepted that ball, carried up the field, like again, kick pass straight away, which you just don't see in a modern game. It's not that risky to give that ball. It's 70% kick pass on into the corner forward, one hop in front of him, corner forward in sync with the player, took it out, 1-2. And then as he broke the tackle to give it back to Ben O'Carroll, he was being dragged down and he was able to kind of like, as the ball was kind of being bounced up into the air as he was fouled, he kind of with one hand flicked it on really nicely. And that's how Ben O'Carroll got the goal chance. But again, that wouldn't have been a goal chance. They were willing to take the black card and give the. So yeah, it's obviously even in that early stage of the game, the black card, the players aren't considering it enough of a deterrent. So yeah, like I think it is. It kind of ruins a bit of that end of the game where you kind of are. It makes it even harder, like when there's only a score in the game and everyone kind of wants that last hurrah to happen or that last bit of drama. Like it reduces the chances of it, But yeah, I'd like to have seen the TV angle and replays to see how close that free was at the end, because he looked to have struck it really, really nicely. But yeah, like it was, and he he was taking over the freeze after Shane Canan took over the freeze after Nugent had gone. Like so, he obviously isn't striking them all the time. Like, but I thought that like when he caught it, I thought that was perfect. But there was a few shots that the Glen had in the first half as well, where like they obviously went really far to the far post, thinking that the wind would bring it back out, but the wind obviously was coming so strong that it was still going wide. Like so, I don't know. Did the replay show that was very tight? Was it, or was it well wide?
I was close enough, and like people were cheering in the stadium as if it was going over, and then obviously went wide. It was a heartbreaking way to lose, to know that you had a shot to equalise it. And look, it was kind of 40, was on the 45 line. It was.
Yeah, just on the 45, essentially. Yeah. So, and I said he struck it really nicely, struck it really sweetly. But and like obviously sometimes you see lads like in that moment, like they could absolutely scuff it or they could get the better of them. But no, he got right under it. And yeah, was a nice attempt. But like, yeah, I think that Brigid's, once that goal went in, like that was such a swayer. Like, they'd been in such control and they needed to stay in control like that. And you need to be in a situation where you're ahead of the Glen. Like, you don't want to be behind them at all. Like, because they actually did well to get another crack at it when the Glen, I thought they were going to hold possession for longer than they did. It was quite a good press to come up on them. But yeah, like I suppose one of the other kind of main talking points you alluded to earlier was just the performance of Conor Glass was absolutely outrageous. Like it was absolutely outrageous. Like, geez, like one of the balls he caught, like he took two lads out with his knees. There was another one where he broke, like he could have caught it, but he drove it into the forward line.
And the goal as well.
And the goal, yeah, and like some of his tackles and loose balls, and he's just all over the field. Like his fitness levels are outrageous. Like he just kind of motors around. And like you hear commentators often referring to like a big, huge man. He's not that big of a man for midfield. He's quite light. He's not like 6'4" or 6'5" or anything like that. He's like, if you put him beside Brian Fenton, like he's a small man beside Brian Fenton. But like,
would you think so?
Fit. He's not 6'4", like he's not, and he's very lean, like. But he's got a massive leap. And he's just so fit. He just powers around that field like he's a gazelle. It's been like one of those when they there was a stage there when Darragh O'Shea was being called 6'4" and he barely 6 foot, like, So yeah, like it's one of those, like he is tall, but like he's not towering out there. Like, as I said, if you put him beside Brian Fenton, he's a small man beside Brian Fenton. Like, in every.
Be interested to see that. One man I was surprised at how huge he was, and I met him once, was Matthew Tierney. I remember meeting him and being absolutely stunned at how big Matthew Tierney was. Huge man, massive, like.
Yeah. But those guys are like, to Matthew Tierney's 6'4", 6'5", like, and obviously Fenton is like that as well. Like, so where Conor Glass 6'2", like, and he's obviously very tall, but he's 6'2", and he's very, very lean, like very lean. But he's just so strong, so aggressive. His leap is huge, and his athleticism, he just motors around that field. Like, when the ball kind of, like, he's midfield, so he's doing so much carrying. But like, there was one period at the end where a ball kind of like bounced, and like two British lads kind of went up to kind of flick, and he just came through them, like hand pass, get it back, hand pass. And you're just there, like the amount of distance that he has covered at that stage of the game compared to nearly anyone else. And he's just like eating through movements like that. He was colossus, like, and like just interceptions as well. And I think he made a block in the first half as well. Like, he was absolutely everywhere. Like, that was, in terms of them deserving it from last year and in terms of his performance. And I thought they had a really nice acceptance speech as well. Kind of felt like they were really great speech actually afterwards. Like, so yeah, you wouldn't begrudge them anyway.
Well, that's it. And they've come like the long way through it. I think, Matthew, I think one thing that it reminds me of, say, when Liverpool finally won the Premier League title. I was like, you've been fantastic for 2 years to win the title once, and you do deserve to win that title. They are deserving champions. And I mean, I'm just going to throw this back to you to wrap it up. You predicted it right from the start. Glen are All-Ireland club champions. That's what you said right from the get-go, and they've done it today. So you must be feeling pretty proud of yourself on that prediction.
Not many predictions I get right, Séamus. So I'm definitely drinking this in. You can see all the memes going up to social media now that says, yeah, I was right. But yeah, like I just knew for the outset there was going to be a vengeance this year after what happened last January. I know Kilmacud were the better team that day. I think Glen were kind of frustrated with two things. One, the performance wasn't good enough on the day. And two, because of the way it ended with the 17 players on the pitch. And it was just a sort of an incident that would never happen in Gaelic games. So Glen always had that vengeance that they were going to win this final. But just on Conor Glass for a minute there as well for his performance. He got 1-2 today, 100% shot accuracy. 3 turnovers in the first half alone. And Eamon was talking about his blocks there, his interceptions. That's counting that as well. That was just incredible. And his athleticism as well. And Eamon was talking about, the catch above the two Brigid lads as well was just unreal.
That was like an
And,
Aussie rules catch.
Yeah, it's outrageous. Like that,
unreal.
when you see the ball hanging in front of me, you are there thinking like, geez, if I was midfield for Bridges there, I would be just saying to my goalkeeper, like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Like,
hanging
you're
it
gonna
up
kick
on
it to
top
me,
of him.
get it at an angle or something. But if you hang that ball up around him, like
So speaking of that,
he-
yeah, we've a comment in here. Hurling 123 for us that the shape of these players is ridiculous. They must
Yeah,
live some.
yeah.
They must live some disciplined lifestyles from gym, diet,
It's
etc.
true. You think of like the lad in the Bridges team who I think of with that is like he's kind of a different position altogether. But like Ben O'Carroll, the movement of
Yeah.
him inside is just it's relentless. Like he did the same for Roscommon, even more so for Bridges in terms of he's like a one man inside. He's on his own. He obviously puts good pressure on defensively. A lot of the time he kind of leaves himself up as like the last guy, so he's not having to do as much defensive work, but he still puts on great intensity. And then
He has a dog in him
single
as well. He has a
he's-
dog in him as well. I was watching.
Oh.
He has a dog. I was watching him today. Michael Warnock and Ryan Duggan were giving him hell, and he was giving it right back. There was a
Yeah.
couple of times where he somehow came out with the ball.
Yeah. Like even I thought it was a great call by the referee when he kind of dived on the ball in the corner, but like he kind of kicked it ahead of himself. Fullback did really well when he went over, and I mean, he defended that really well. But like every single play that comes around him, he's at 100%. Like he's playing at 100% intensity, movement, cutting, and like he's just repeating that play. Very, very rarely injured. Like the kind of the fitness levels of somebody like him or Conor Glass. Again, if you look at some of the Dublin players, like it's built up over a good few years, like a good few years of just like really smart. Yeah, and as I said, the fact that they're not having injuries and stuff like that as well, like it's really impressive. Like and like Glass would be a terrifying prospect to mark, like because in the middle of the field there, like Eddie Nolan had a really good game. He scored 2 points, like but you know, like you wouldn't want to, you wouldn't want to be stuck marking Conor Glass on the sides of Croke Park, like.
100%. And he was the main man in leading Watty Grahams Glen to their first ever All-Ireland Club Championship victory. An absolutely outstanding performance by him and an outstanding performance by Glen. Congratulations to them. Anyone associated with the club, enjoy these days. They come very rarely. Very, very few clubs get to experience days like this, so enjoy them. Malik O'Rourke, Conor Glass, Emmett Bradley, any of the lads that put the work in, absolutely truly deserving All-Ireland Club champions for 2023/24. So that is the football finished. Eamon, thank you very, very much for coming on with the football with us today.